And we are back with another episode of Bold Movers and Shakers, interviews worth listening to. And in this case, it's interviews that rock. I am with Robin Joy Meyers. She is an international speaker, a fear strategist, and a molecular scientist, all wrapped up in one. I'm so excited to present Robin to you. She has so much to share that will help you make a bold move in life. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alexis. Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you. You have had a remarkable skyrocket journey lately. Tell people what it is that you're up to just kind of loosely right now.
Well, right now, my 2019 has kind of taken off. I'm working specifically with the Fearless Women's Summit, which is part of One Woman Canada.
Yeah.
I was privileged to meet them and speak in Canada last year.
Nice.
And made the comment, you should be in the States. And it's just an incredible organization that, look it up, onewoman.ca. And they just do an incredible outreach and across the world. So Charlotte Brown, the founder, said, sure, can you help me? And I was like, oh, sure. And I'm speaking in 17 cities as we move along. And actually, I leave on Sunday to head to New York to get up to Hartford for the 14th and start my East Coast up and down and all of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Okay, so you guys listening, this is a woman who didn't have a voice, literally, was silent, didn't have to speak till she was 4 or 5 years old.
Exactly.
And that's amazing. And then later in life discovered that she was somebody else's mom or didn't have a name. I'm going to roll into it, let you tell that story real quick there, Robin. It's yours.
Sure. Well, it's true. I actually didn't speak until I was 4 years old. I was the youngest of 3. I had 2 older brothers. And all I needed to do was point, and everybody would run and get what they thought I needed.
Wow. That's like magic.
Right. It would be like point, 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 and everybody would be my pinball machine. Cute at the time, I guess, but I never learned to ask for anything. And if you roll that in, I was the girl of the family. So I lived a very protective life in a very traditional home where, you protect the female. And I became the doer and the server, but I went through life growing up, not speaking up and really not being very shy, very introverted, and trying to please everyone, worried about if I'm going to disappoint anybody. But I never acknowledged me, and roll that into going away to college. I grew up outside of New York City, went to college in Ohio, which is a whole nother baffling question. I don't know exactly how that happened. Major culture shock, but roll all of that in, cut out a few chunks in there. My mother had taken ill and passed away when I was in grad school, but got married and then just became the wife, the mother of 3 great kids. But I just rolled into checking the boxes. I didn't have my mother anymore, who was the one person I did speak to. And so I went with what I guess I thought happens. Not that I regret it, but I still never knew who I was.
So when you say roll with what you thought happens, was that the standard, get married, have kids, do the job, that kind of expectation, I guess, is what we've had.
It's kind of like you're turning 25 and, are you serious with a guy yet? And, certainly you have to have kids before 30 because, your biological clock, and great husband, but it was kind of like, okay. And again, what did I know? I was a peanut. When I look back, my kids now are 20. I have the same setup, interestingly enough. My youngest is a girl, my daughter, 22. And then I have a 24-year-old and a 27-year-old, 2 boys.
That's funny.
It's really funny. And, but I look at how young that is, and I'm so like, oh, don't do anything, nothing. Just live your life.
Wait a minute. So what do you mean don't do anything?
For my kids, I'm like, you don't need to check any boxes. You don't need to think
Gotcha.
anything is supposed to happen. It happens when you think it happens.
Yes. So you broke the legacy that you kind of grew up with, huh?
I broke that legacy. You talk about
Yay.
like the fear and imprints and things like that, which we can talk about, the
Yes.
science of it.
Yes.
But I was not going to let that carry on.
Well, that's brilliant when someone can have that much awareness and decide that it should be different moving forward. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of your interesting titles is Fear Strategist and confounds the brain. Can you please talk to that? That's a what? What is that?
Well, you know, it kind of comes from the whole idea of giving myself permission to use my voice. And really my aha moment was when I turned 53.
Yeah.
Because that was the age my mom died. And I realized how young
Wow. Yeah.
53 really is. I love my 50s. You know, I'm just getting started. So, but when I turned 53, my daughter turned 21. So we were exactly the same age as my mother and I.
Oh, wow.
So it was very surreal. And it was very like, oh, wow. So it is time to start speaking up and taking care of yourself, because no one's going to help you do that but you. So that's when it all started to really kick into place, and learning to use my voice. And so the idea of the fear strategist, you know, I started as a life coach, transitional coach, life strategist, but it was really like giving ourselves permission, as especially as women. It's that fear of judgment, the fear of disappointing people. It's fear. And so the idea of being a fear strategist is I can get you through that. Like, here's the science of fear, and fear isn't a choice. I mean, we can talk science for a minute if you want. Fear is not a choice, but you have to use it to your advantage because you can control it. And it's a good thing.
How does somebody use it to their advantage?
So the science of fear, not getting too molecular geneticist on you.
Okay.
But the science of fear is that there's 5 areas of the brain that are associated with the fear response. One of those areas is the amygdala in the brain. And the amygdala actually stores your imprints, every imprint of your life from pre-verbal stage through your life until you die.
Wow.
Everything.
And it's little, it's tiny, right?
It's a tiny little thing in there.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So every little everything, you know, and some of those imprints, when you think of being a child, are totally imposed by your parents.
Yes.
An example, actually, and I never put this together until recently, I used to ride horses briefly. When I was 11 years old, I had a bad accident. And I had broken my back in 3 areas, and it was like a 9-month recovery.
Oh my God.
You know, and everything was fine. But there was initially, was I going to walk and all that sort of stuff. However, I got through it. My daughter, we lived in Waterford, Virginia, which is beautiful countryside outside of DC, horses and all. She wanted to ride. And I was like, okay, why not? You know, it's countryside. I know the people. You get all the safety gear. I never made that connection because why shouldn't she try it? My father had called one day, furious, absolutely furious. And not hello, how are you? It was like, are you stupid? I'm so disappointed in you. Which totally triggered my young little quiet Robin. Yeah. Because that's the worst thing your parents really say is like, I'm disappointed in you.
Yes.
But for me as a parent now, as I try and flush the whole fear thing out, I can give it to him and understand it in the sense of his getting through that situation. His imprint was, how could I let her do it? But for me, it's like, why shouldn't she try? You know, it was an accident and hopefully it won't happen. So that idea is so using fear to your advantage, you can break those imprints that don't work for you. Something like that. Like logically, my daughter having an accident, the chances of that are whatever those chances are.
Sure.
Why shouldn't she try it? So you can break those imprints and go for it.
Excuse me. How does a person break an imprint if it's in this organ? If it's
really, so our brain,
fascinated.
which is the most complex organ of our body,
Yeah.
right? 100 billion nerve cells,
Yeah.
is so intricate and so great at tricking us. Our subconscious is like such a powerhouse at having all the neurological pathways. So it's constantly saying, don't do that, because you're programmed that way. And that's you getting really good at knowing who you are and what you want. And you have to start reprogramming yourself. And it really is reprogramming your thoughts, which takes time because then the self-doubt kicks in. And what you don't realize, it's really your subconscious trying to tug you back, saying, don't do it, because you've always known this one pathway. But it's like, wait, I'm trying something new. And eventually it gives in because you've practiced this pathway long enough that it moves forward.
So you can break it.
You can break it.
Wow. I would say you have, given that you're now an international speaker for a woman who didn't have her voice.
Oh my gosh, I never thought I would do that.
This is amazing. You're an amazing story of a before and after snapshot, and the after is just getting going, isn't it?
It is getting going. It is, and I'm having a blast. I really am.
How in the world did you muster it up? I mean, you've told me that. Go ahead and define bold for me, for the audience.
I think bold is just being really authentically you. Just again using your voice. I define bold as knowing who you are. And this takes time of your self-awareness, but knowing what your non-negotiables are. Where are you not negotiating you? And putting your foot down almost and saying, this is what I need from the world. This is what I need for me. Because you show up so much better for everybody else then. You serve so much better.
Okay, so there's a transitional period so let's imagine a woman has been the woman for everyone else most of her life. And doesn't
That'd be me.
Okay, exactly. That's definitely what you were. And then you decide to make a bold move and be different, other than what people have expected you to be. Is that well received? What does a person do with that? How do they know that that's okay and not being selfish? And how do they handle that?
That's like a loaded question. You know that.
I do. But what happens is the other people think disease kicks in, and it causes us to edit ourselves, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes.
It really does. And that's where it really takes time for you to really dig in and learn about you. Because the problem is this, everybody else will be rattled, will be totally rattled. Some people will accept it. Some people won't.
That's right.
Some people who are closest to you will not or may. But you still have to be you. And especially women of my age, our ages, why not? You've moved everybody else through. For me, like my kids are doing their thing now. So why shouldn't I shift my purpose into serving other women that I know have maybe the same calling I have, or have the same questions that I had, or are stuck, or need a little help moving forward? So for what I do with people is really make them kind of start a routine. Like I say 5 minutes every morning just for you, kind of quiet the noise, quiet everybody else's list of what they think you need to do. But what do you need? What do you need from the day?
For you.
Only for you.
Just throwing that in there. Yeah.
Well, we don't know what self-care is. I mean, I never really even considered self-care. And it's not being selfish. It's really a necessity, because at some point, and I think especially what I found is personally for me is the more you serve, which is a wonderful trait in a way to a point.
Yeah.
But the more you serve and bury yourself, there's a point that you break. And so if you don't want to really break, if you can learn self-care early on, more power to you.
So you've got to learn to feed your own well.
You have to. You really have to. You have to be able to. And if at any age, you know, if you're a young mother with 3 little babies, right? Fine if it's once a month or something. You have to find that time that you get your quiet time where somebody can help you along the line. And hopefully it would be your spouse, since they're part his, to take care of those children. But, you know, it's kind of like the oxygen mask really on the airplane, right? There's a reason they say put it on first, because otherwise you're going to pass out. And then you're of no service to anybody, including yourself.
Yeah. I would just like to interject something that I didn't get to share with you yet. And that is that I, as a child, was deemed a selfish, self-centered little bitch. That was what my mom said to me. And I was a kid. So I grew up with this notion, which was completely different, that, you know, to take care of everybody, and raised brothers, became mini mom, did everything I could to gain approval and conditional love. And the battle then for me was to overcome, this ingrained notion that doing anything for myself that way was wrong, selfish. And as an adult, I didn't have a family. I chose not to. I'm okay with that. But there's a different kind of setup in which a not so healthy parent can really damage a kid's self-esteem, their self-worth. What is it okay for me to do this for myself? Why is this being considered selfish? And often heard, you want what you want when you want it. And I was like, who doesn't? Who doesn't? Why is that wrong? And to be able to overcome that is quite a feat. So
it's a huge feat. I totally agree with you. And I know a lot of people that actually had your situation and similar stories.
Wow.
It's a huge feat because, first of all, when did we not kind of stand on our own? And, you know, I look at like 53 finally standing up, like, when was I not an adult? Like, when did I not earn the right to say, this is what I want to do? And why is it self-centered and selfish and stuff like that to say, this is what I want?
Yeah.
And choosing not to have kids, you chose not to have kids. That's fabulous. You know, that was a choice you made, and whatever, nothing's wrong with your choices. You made them. You know, the thing with self-worth, and I do a lot about self-worth, the thing with self-worth is nobody can give us our self-worth but ourselves. And it's really hard because as much as people try and rip it away from us, that's where the whole self-awareness piece comes in, really, and it's creating a really good mindset as an individual, because we can take it and we can give it from ourselves, but no one's going to validate us. You know, as much as we look for that validation, and especially as a child, you're looking for that validation.
Sure. Yeah.
But they're not going to give it to you. And even as an adult, you know, and I always use the example for, you know, you put on an outfit and someone says, you look fabulous. And you're like, I don't like it. You know, if you don't like it, it doesn't matter what anyone says. So your self-worth isn't negotiable either. Like, no one can validate you, if that makes sense.
Yes. And yet we get feedback, don't we? And we can know, hey, this outfit doesn't do me a damn bit of good, or not. I mean, what sources do you trust to at all? I mean, especially if you've had your self-esteem rattled and your self-worth is below the gutter. How does a person assess who to listen to, who not to listen to, and are they doing okay? You
have to really learn to really trust yourself. That's the big thing. You have to learn to say, this is me, this is my non-negotiable, and be willing to step away from those that are not supporting you.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's not easy to say. That's certainly not easy to say, and that might be in your closest circle. And those that will support you, that's who you bond with and you go with, and that might not be family, and very often it's not. But you have to be willing to say, "This is me, and I am a good person, and I'm doing good in the world. I'm doing me." Like, we're all, we're told to be unique,
Yeah.
and then we're criticized to be unique, and it's like, okay. So
Right.
we take these baby steps, and then society says another thing. It's like we're moving forward and then we're moving 2 steps back. So it really does come down to really, self-awareness, and in that whole self-care routine has to come in, because we have the power to change our mindset. And that does come in with this whole neurological programming and subconscious and all of that. But there are ways to reprogram your subconscious. I actually have this training to reprogram your subconscious. It's fascinating. Like, you would think that's like woo-woo stuff. Fascinating.
Well, you're a scientist first. I mean, there's that. So
yeah, that's true.
If it's based, if one can actually embrace that as a law, scientific level, it's not woo-woo. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And so if you can do it on a consistent basis, like, yes, it works with this person and that person and that person, the proof of concept is there. And
Right.
And that's amazing news. Where can people learn how to do that? What's your phone number, woman?
Just call me and we'll set up a time.
Right.
Actually, just contact me, and I always do calls. So the best way to contact me really is go to my website, which is www.robinjoymeyers.com. And on there, you can get right on my calendar. You can see everywhere I'm going, but and learn about me. But there's a calendar link, and it's called Discovery Call. It's 40 minutes, and I'm happy to chat with you and go from there. So, that's complimentary. Just get on my calendar.
That's fantastic to do, to offer for people to do.
And then there's a link for like my learning hub, which has like morning routine, my top strategies that got me through life. So try it.
Nothing but helpful.
Yeah.
So with regard to being bold and being authentic and authentically yourself, are there places in you yet to be discovered, no, I don't want that piece anymore?
Yes. Honestly, yes, there are. My family life has, my marriage of 28 years, and he's looking at me like, what? And I'm like on the go, and choices I'm okay saying, okay, you're not with me. So, I mean, for my own happiness, I've worked really hard, and I'm okay. So yeah, I'm in my own transition of that.
So what I've discovered is that at least a good measure for me was to say, based on what's going on right now and how this person's responding, is this someone I would keep in my world? Is this someone I would select as a friend? Do they have those qualities? So when you mentioned non-negotiables, to me, it is, I want to have somebody who is honest, who is, we've all got our own ideals. And no matter who that person is to you at the moment, as in a family member or a spouse or even kids, is this someone you would choose to have as a friend? Is this someone you trust with your feelings? Is this someone who is supportive of you? And those things have to be they have to be yeses, don't they?
They do have to be yeses, and I think you talk about, being told you're selfish and things like that. It's like, I don't think I am. I think first of all, I'm happy. And second of all, I think I'm doing good. I mean, that's my goal, is to speak to women to do good in the world. So nope, I think it's all good. So
how did you make the leap from introvert, scientist, no voice, to taking international stages, Robin? This is an incredible leap.
You know, it really was turning 53. I mean, I've been in the corporate world and corporate trainings, and then I actually taught math and science. No surprise.
No surprise there. Yeah.
And you're right. You know, the science world, I laugh now because I even kept that quiet until very recently with the whole fear discussion, because I just thought it was something I did because I didn't go to med school. You know, my parents were like, you should go to med school. And I was like, okay. And I didn't get in. So I went and got my master's in molecular genetics.
Wow.
I just thought it was just go do it, right? I was told to do it. Right. But now when I look back, you know, I do think things happen for reasons. I wouldn't be able to dive into fear this way if I didn't have that background. So, and I also discovered a gene, a gene in fruit flies of all things. But
you discovered a gene? Wow.
I have a gene.
Wow.
How does science work?
In fruit flies.
In fruit flies.
That's remarkable. I mean, did everybody miss it? I mean, is it named after you? Like, that's incredible.
Actually, it's called, it's TUB36, and 36 has to do with the chromosome number that it's on.
Okay.
And somebody might rename it someday. I don't know. But it has to do with actually flight and the mutation to prevent flight. Oh. So it was pretty interesting because I always was very interested in like dystrophy and stuff like that. But being in the lab was a great place for an introvert because you don't have to speak to too many people. And I was everyone's best friend because they could go off to whatever party on the weekend and I'd sit in the lab and cover everybody's lab, their stuff that they needed done. Oh. I had nowhere to go. So it was a great place to hide, a really good place to hide. But,
okay, so but
and in that time when my mom had passed away, I went into hiding even further. So that's when alone became loneliness and depression and things like that. But really my 53rd birthday was my wake up call to say, you know, you have to start speaking up. I had a job which on paper was amazing. I was director of education for a phenomenal nonprofit. Like the program was so great for teenagers. Yeah. I had a boss who had her own issues going on of self-esteem and stuff like that, but she took it out on me. And I finally just broke. I put my foot down and was like, you know, I'm not talking at home. I'm not talking here. Enough. Like I'm not doing this anymore because I'm not living. And
can I interject real quick?
Yeah, sure.
How did that make you feel? So that somebody can recognize it, because we can get used to stuffing and what it feels like and have no clue that that's actually what's going on for us. How does somebody recognize that?
You know, the excitement from going out to this job and being with the kids, it was very big. It had to do with National Park Services, and they made mini movies for pamphlets and stuff. That was great. But when she would show up, I got squashed. And I felt myself retreat to the little Robin, literally, I felt like I was a teen again, the little quiet Robin. And so my dog's here. I just retreated to this little voice. And I was driving home because part of me was sorry.
It's okay. It's a big dog. It's hard to ignore.
She has a very large head. When I was going to these events, it was very exciting, and you kind of leave home, and I put on a different hat and I went. Yeah. But then when I went into that, it was like I'm going from silence to silence and squash, squash, squash. And it just, I literally went in after one event and I said, I quit, because I said, I will never do this to myself again. And it was just one of those moments where I knew I was coming up to 53. I knew life, you don't know what life's going to give you. I mean, I was healthy, but who knows? I could drive off a road. I had my daughter who was 21, and I was not going to do that to her. So that was my moment.
So it was feelings of frustration, reminding yourself of what it used to be like before, and just saying, that's enough. I've
Enough.
had enough.
Yep.
Yeah. Pester, fester, boom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, being accustomed to stuffing feelings and going along with what other people do, cutting off oneself is really what's happening.
Exactly. And that, in itself was a really bold choice because
Yes.
it was financially rewarding. It had our health care and all that. That
Yikes.
rattled a few feathers too,
Yikes. I'll
you
bet.
know.
I'll bet. Had you considered saying something just lightly, or had you been saying something like, could you stop stepping on my feet, woman?
I
It's hard
I
to do.
kept saying something, and everyone saw it. It was a very small team, and we all saw it. And some days it wasn't me, some days it was somebody else. So she targeted the women in the team, which is interesting as a woman. But it was
It
just
doesn't
like,
matter. They're going to do
yeah,
what they do.
enough's enough.
Yeah. So then you mentioned earlier, alone but not lonely. Would you speak to that? Because I think there's a big concern for the women and men that have surrounded themselves just for the sake of not being alone. They've compromised who they are. They will be a doormat, people pleaser, butt kisser, whatever you want to call it. I don't mean it, that bad, but it happens. Anything to have company, anything to have someone in their lives. And yeah.
Absolutely. So part of my turning 53 was writing my book, Alone But Not Lonely.
Yay. Wow.
Reclaim your identity and be unapologetically you.
That's awesome. What a great title.
So it goes from my story into the tools,
Yes.
and then other people's stories, and some of it's relationships. And the interesting thing was going from loneliness as isolation,
yes,
to really learning that you need alone time to learn who you are. We go in this race of what we need to do or what we think we need to do. We have 5 minutes a day. Unless, unfortunately, the house is on fire, we have 5 minutes a day.
There's that. Yeah.
To just stop. And I'm not even like that structured as to what you do with it. If you're the type that just needs a cup of coffee and quiet, go for it. If you like yoga, like I've gotten into a routine where I do like a little mini workout and stuff like that, do it. If you like meditation, great. But just make sure you ask yourself, how do I need to feel today? What do I need from today? How do I need to feel? If you can do that in those 5 minutes, it gives you clarity for the day, because you're starting the day with just a new energy. Do not pick up your phone. Don't get stuck with that yet. But it gives you energy and clarity, and you're going into the day saying, here are my non-negotiables. I need this from the day to happen for me.
I love that. It occurs to me as you're speaking that when we're surrounded by people that we've compromised ourselves for,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many people are in that group. We can feel very alone.
You can feel very alone.
And it translates into loneliness. Social isolation in a crowd is a real thing. And it's not being understood or related to, or whatever it is. Even if someone is surrounded by a bunch of people, if they've compromised themselves, it's probably not the best crowd to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying, it's true. Some people stay. I talk in my talk about fear. I talk kind of the evolution of fear. We go from like fear of falling as a youngster to fear of failure, fear of success sometimes, on and on. But in relationships, some people stay in relationships and they're afraid to get out. Or some people don't go into relationships because they're afraid of the commitment. But you do have to ask yourself, it's a very bold move, apropos to your story here. It's a very bold move to say, it's not authentically me. I have to do me. I have to live me.
Yeah. And that's, I think there's a still small voice that is still very small in all of us that needs encouraging and nurturing so that we
Definitely.
can move toward those things.
And
That
that's where you need to find that support. You know, that's where you need to find that one or two or group that supports you in those decisions, you know,
yeah.
and surround yourself with that.
Yeah, and get used to the compliments that people are sincere, that it isn't a joke, that even if you don't feel like you look fabulous, maybe you do. And
And
maybe,
just say thank you.
come on,
Yeah,
cut yourself some slack.
exactly.
Yeah.
We are our biggest critics. We really are. You know, we need to treat ourselves the way we treat others, even our best friends, but just other people. Like we really beat ourselves up for things, which we wouldn't do to someone else.
Yeah, having been raised with the be perfect, try harder, cycle of you'll never win. You just forget it. You just keep trying. Go ahead. It doesn't work. And and so then we do it to ourselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not there yet. So you're moving forward. You're doing an awful lot of amazing things. I looked at your website. Please go to Robin's website, robinjoymeyers.com. And take a look at this incredible speaking schedule that she's put herself on. For a woman who had no voice to be like, oh my God, you're just killing it. You're crushing it. I mean, just, and what a service, what a wonderful thing that you're doing. And also as a coach, you're also helping others to do this.
That is my goal. I try to, I do it as a coach, and I do workshops and things like that. And, as far as the speaking, people go to the One Woman website, pick a city that you're in and come. It's a wonderful experience. It's not just me talking. There's a bunch of speakers, but great conversations and just awarenesses, and you'll have a great time.
The Fearless Woman Tour. How perfect.
Yeah. But, I do say that living fearlessly is not without fear.
No.
Living fearlessly means that you live very presently and move through your moments with a courageous and conscious presence, because it takes courage, but you have to actively be present to make these choices. So it's, being on the ball and knowing who you are.
Is there a way that a person can assess that they're not being who they are? Because that's the $1 million question or answer, really. Because I firmly believe you can't not be you, or it's you being quiet, or when you want to have a voice, for instance, you're still being yourself, but it's a compromised self. And I think really ultimately what we can decide to do is, well, these are the qualities that I want to embody. Mm-hmm. And those aren't, and out with the old, in with the bold.
I love that. Out with the old, in with the bold. And something, do something for you. Even if it's once a week, once a month, whatever it is. If you want to try painting, go paint. If you want to go for a long hike, go for a long hike. You want to go to the movies by yourself, go to the movies. Like, do something solely for you. Once in a while. If you could do it often, great. If you can't, do it at some point.
It's like a reset button.
It's a reset button.
Yeah.
And, I say that even with my clients in the morning routines, be gentle with yourself. Like, you're not going to do 5 days a week right off the bat. Start with 3. If you get 3 days, great. If you skip a day, don't beat yourself up. Pick up the 3rd day.
Yeah.
Build up to 5. And just be nice to yourself and go slowly. And just, it's all resetting. It's all rewiring our neurological pathway. And it's a process.
It is a process, and it's not exactly overnight. I like that you have processes, because motivation is for the moment, but real change comes over time and application. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it takes work. It does. So if you're ready to, it's My wake-up call was 53. When you're ready to do it, there's support for you.
Well, birthdays do that, don't they? I think I actually focus on that. What birthdays do about 2 weeks before and about a week after.
Right.
There's an intense reevaluation, an assessment. Am I where I should be, where I thought I should be? All those things come up.
Mm-hmm.
And to be kind to yourself during those times, in that you are where you are, and that is perfect in and of itself.
Right. And you get to define that, right? I mean,
yes.
Be
Yes.
where you are because that's where you are by your definition, nobody else's.
Yes. So if people want to come and hear you speak, they can do this at through the Fearless Woman Tour of 2019. I also understand, at least it's on your website, that you have a VIP retreat coming up.
Oh my gosh, I just got the preliminary itinerary. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Lay it out there, girl.
Oh my gosh. So October 19th through the 26th, I am working with this woman who does international retreats. And we are going to Tuscany. And we're naming it Women Who Dare, about just giving yourself permission. So it'll be cultural and it'll be inspirational. I'll work with everybody individually, one-on-one, and do, I think, 3 or 4 group retreats. Inside, we have this family villa which looks drop dead beautiful. They have
Tuscany. How could it not be?
An olive grove, and they're like one bus stop from Siena and Florence and Chianti. So we're going all over the place, and it's really, get in touch with yourself. And it's small. It'll be 10 women. So if you're interested, it is on my website. I just put the link with the preliminary itinerary. So take a look, because it is going to be fantastic. I promise you, it'll be fantastic.
That is incredible. Look at you go. So at 53, you had a wake-up call. At 50, are you 54 yet?
I did. I turned 54 in August.
Look at you. I mean, like 0 to 60 in no time flat.
I love my 50s. Anyone who's turning 50, don't worry, it's great.
Oh, and if you don't feel like it's great yet, look Robin up, because
call me. I'll talk to you. It's great.
yeah. I just want to close with a couple of interesting little bits about you, I suppose. Do you have a hero in life, Robin?
Do you know something? I thought about this question, and I think, honestly, my hero is my daughter.
Wow.
My 22-year-old girl is so wise and is doing her thing. She is brilliant, like brilliant and beautiful. She didn't do the traditional college route that everybody, she graduated with a 4.4 or 5. I don't even know.
Oh
but
my God.
Everyone's like, be an engineer. And she's like, no, she's an actress. She's been in theater for, I think, since age 10. I don't even know. But
wow.
She graduated from a conservatory. She's living in New York, doing her auditions and everything else. She's unbelievable. And she makes my heart sing. And I watch her every day. And she's so grounded and knows who she is. I'm like, you're my inspiration.
Bravo. Bravo, Mom.
I think I learned from her.
But, encouraging the authenticity. I mean, it had to start somewhere. You could have continued the legacy of not being that way. So, kudos to you.
Wow. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well,
and a choice, pardon?
She is incredible. So
that's wonderful that you feel that way about her. I know it might catch you by surprise, but do you have a favorite quote that you might like to share?
Oh, that does catch me by surprise. Do I know it?
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, there's a couple that I really love. There's a Brene Brown one that was just about courage that I had seen. That the root word of courage is core, coming from within.
I like that. Can I give one to you? Because this one really suits you.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, it's Dr. Seuss, my favorite guy, whatever. And that is, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And that's really, to me, that's what you're doing.
I love that. Thank you. That's
Fantastic work. And yeah, I can't wait to see if we work together soon.
We have to.
I'm looking
You're
forward to
doing
it.
fantastic things. So thank you.
It has been absolutely my pleasure. RobinJoyMeyers.com is the place that you need to go when you want to go places. That's pretty good for on the fly, huh? Not bad for a white girl with a cooking degree. Thank you for being my guest. It was an absolute honor to have you, and for the inspiration that you carry out into the world every day, just being who you are. That's enough, but you've gone further. You take the stage, you take the microphone, you've written a book, and I've got goosebumps and I'm wearing a coat. Okay. Like, wow.
Alexis, thank you. You're my inspiration. You're doing amazing things. So I can't wait to talk more and see what we can do together to take on this world.
Let's do it, girl. Let's do it. Thank you once again. Thank you for listening to Bold Movers and Shakers, interviews worth listening to. And as I've said in this case, interviews that rock with Robin Joy Meyers. I will see you next time. Tune in, subscribe, rate, review. Let's make this go big, because being bold is the only way to go. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. See you out there.